So as of last Friday, the S&P 500 officially entered a bear market, and right now there is one word that is on everybody's lips.
A recession is pretty likely.
Are we heading into a global recession?
There's a lot of concern about a recession.
Upcoming recession.
A recession.
A recession.
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 Do you feel like we're heading towards another one based on these numbers?
And I'll say it, they're probably right. But the majority of us, we are about to go through our first ever real recession. But don't worry, I'm not just going to sit here and just inject more fear into you and getting you feeling like this guy.
Now I'm panicking.
I'm here to flip the script and actually talk about why times like these can actually be some of the best opportunities to kickstart your journey into real wealth creation and share exactly how you can profit from it. But before we do any of that, we do have to understand what actually causes a recession in the first place so that we can, of course, take full advantage of it. So after taking a quick 5-minute check on Google, the official term of a recession is a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in 2 successive quarters.
What you talking about, Willis?
Now I know, there's way too many words right there to process, so a more simple breakdown would be people are spending less money, which leads to a reduction in sales for businesses, which then leads to a slower economic growth than expected in a country. This then leads to job losses, and then the cycle essentially just repeats itself until we find a fix or things just level out. Now, how do we let ourselves get into a position of recession in the first place? Well, it doesn't actually get much easier to explain this concept either, because so many different people will put it down to so many different things, but the reality is no one really knows, not even the best in the business.
Okay, if you're Warren Buffett or if you're Jimmy Buffett, nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in fucking circles.
However, if we do take a look back at historical recessions, there have always been a few consistent factors throughout the years that may have been the main culprits. You have things such as high inflation, natural disasters, higher interest rates, supply chain issues, and wars. Funny enough, everything that we're pretty much experiencing right now. Which probably does explain the reason why the term recession has been trending higher than it ever has this past month since the start of the pandemic. However, one thing that you never see in the media are the actual good things that can come from a recession. First things first, recessions don't actually last as long as what you think. Just using this chart right here to show previous recessions compared to the expansion in the economy that follows, first we can see that the average recession only lasts around 11 months, whereas the expansion beyond it lasts an average of 69. We can also see that during a recession, GDP growth drops on average 1.8%, but once again, in the months following, the economy then rebounds a further 24.7%, and then finally you can see that jobs end up better off as well. So if we use the history and facts that we can see right here, surely recession should be looked at more of an opportunity rather than an actual issue, right? Well, that's what I think, but there are some steps that you have to get right to profit to not end up being like this guy.
I've got nothing left.
Step number 1, you have to build your foundations first. A quote that really sticks with me is, "You can't build a great building on a weak foundation." And whilst this quote may ring true for a lot of things, when dealing with an economic downturn, it couldn't be any more important. So what do I mean by foundations? Well, what I'm talking about here is taking full control and responsibility on what is exactly coming in and out of your bank account every single month. I'm talking about setting aside money for your bills when you can, saving as much money as possible. Another thing I'm talking about is minimizing as much as you can any high interest debts that you have outstanding. During a recession, the last thing that you want to be worrying about is owing anybody else any money for things that aren't really that essential. Obviously, we're going to exclude things like mortgages and rent payments. And then finally, whilst I have spoken against them slightly in the past, I'm also talking about potentially building a small emergency fund to give yourself that nice little buffer as well. So basically, when it comes to your foundations, get these 3 things in place and you can really start going for it with step number 2, which is to start building multiple income streams. Now, it's no secret that when a recession hits, the first thing people are going to be thinking about is they're going to lose their jobs.
I'm going to lose my job.
I'm sorry for the overuse of that meme in this video, it just works. But it's true, the first thing that people that work a 9-to-5 job worry about is, What if this income disappears? How am I going to feed my family? How am I going to pay the bills, etc.? And a lot of the time, the reason why they are worrying like this is because in most cases, their 9-to-5 job is the family's only source of income. However, in this world of modern day technology and opportunities that literally lie everywhere, no one, and I mean absolutely no one, should ever be relying on just one income stream. Which is why now is the perfect time to start thinking about building a side hustle in your spare time. Now, it could be just 1 hour every single evening that you spend on building this side hustle. I'm not saying you have to go and get a second job or anything like that. You need to start something just to give you that extra income stream to take the pressure off that one income stream that you rely on. Now, I guess naturally the next question is going to be, and probably the golden question of them all, is what side hustle can you start? And honestly, the list is absolutely endless. However, something that I have been doing recently, which absolutely anyone can do, is going through my house, gathering up anything that I don't use or need anymore, and just start listing it for sale on eBay. I'll throw some screenshots of some weekly payments that I've received from my personal eBay account over the past couple of weeks, and whilst there's nothing too major, I've instantly given myself here an alternative income to rely on if my other income streams were to stop for one reason or another. But just going back to the other income streams that you could potentially start, just to name a couple that I like, making money through a personal brand is right up there for me. Reselling on Amazon is also great. Affiliate marketing, selling online courses, coaching, freelancing, the list honestly does go on. In fact, if you do sign up to my free email list where I send a weekly bulletin about money every single Monday, what I'll do is I'll give you my 100 side hustle ideas guide for free. All you have to do is go ahead and sign up with the link in the description down below. But realistically speaking, building multiple income streams is going to play so much in your favor during times of a recession. Not only will they help you mentally cope with the ups and downs in terms of your personal finances, then they are also going to help you get the most out of step number 3, which is to start investing regularly and ignore all of the noise around it. Now, unless you've been living under a rock recently, you would know by now that the stock market is in a pretty bad way. At the time of recording this video, the S&P 500 is down roughly 20% year to date. Finance content creators are flocking away from YouTube because they simply can't handle the pressure. And no matter how well a company is doing according to their earnings report updates, nothing can stop most of the prices coming down every single week. However, just like past recessions and stock market crashes, there has always been one statement that is yet to be proved wrong in over 100 years, and that simply is the market always recovers. God, he's going to bring up another chart, isn't he? Let's take a look at this one right here that represents the S&P 500. And as you can see, during the 2008 financial crash, the index crashed over 35% during this period. This is actually 15% more of a crash than what we have right now, but this is where the massive opportunity comes in. This is because in times like these, almost every single stock out there is on sale, even the best ones. Just think, if you went shopping and you went into all of your favorite shops and all of your favorite brands were all of a sudden 20% off, would you be tempted to buy it? Of course you would. And that's exactly how you should be as well when it comes to the stock market. Now, going back to 2008, if you invested when the market had crashed that 35%, when almost likely every day you'd been presented with fear articles in the newspaper, you would have more than 5x your income, and that's still taking into consideration the 20% drop that we have right now. And guess what? This has always been the case. Going back to the chart of the S&P 500, it shows its bear markets in dark blue, its recessions in grey, and the bull runs in green. And once again, for every bear market that we have seen, the growth on the back of it has completely outweighed that short-term pain. Another thing that's actually even more interesting to point out is that just because there is a recession, it doesn't actually mean the stock market will even go down. They are not tied to one another. As you can see, in 1980, there was a recession, but this didn't actually have any effect on the current bull market at the time that then went on to last 13 years. And you can also see something similar happening 10 years later in 1990. So, going back to the plan, what you're going to need to do is invest regularly into good companies and ETFs that you know from a business point of view will survive this short-term pain. Ignore the noise, that is so important, and trust that history tells us in the long term you are definitely going to be better off. But realistically speaking, when it comes to your investments, all you need to do is keep these three things in mind at all times. Number one, invest when there's fear, take your profit when there's greed. Number two is that no one can time the market, so don't go and try and be the first to do so. And of course, the final one and the key thing that everyone should remember is that the market always recovers. And that right there is exactly how you can take full advantage of this incoming, if not already here, recession. Get these steps right here to stop your money from jiggling, and if you watch this video that shares my best side hustles of 2022, it will certainly have a good chance of folding as well.
So I'd like to see you wiggle for sure.